if you think about it, like we're surrounded by all these things that trigger dopamine, right? These notification alerts, you know, whether it's shorts or reels or TikTok.
If you do look at your mind the way a great athlete, you know, is tuning their body, we're the generation where you can now get dopamine, that happy neurotransmitter sort of like lift with zero effort. We used to have to like write a poem, write a book, paint something, do something, give a speech. Now you can just sit on the sofa and just scroll and just get dopamine hits, and you don't even have to move. You look at the body of research about when you were in a flow state, when you're in a highly concentrated state, when you're in the zone, whatever you want to call it, and you get interrupted, it's between 17 and 25 minutes before you're actually back in that state.
Are you ready to feel like it's Friday every day? I'm Mark Labriola II, and this is The Friday Habit. We interview experts to learn how to bring excitement, possibility, and sweet, sweet relief into every single day, no matter what day it is. If you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, or agency leader, get ready to grow your business, lead with purpose, and build a life you love. Welcome to The Friday Habit. And welcome back to another episode of The Friday Habit. That's right, here we are, another great day. I'm excited for today's guest because he's unique and he has had more experiences in real life interactions than a lot of people that we talk to. He's not just talking about theories, he's talking about real things. And so things that he's experienced and been through. And so I'm excited to share with you guys. We got Steven Puri on the episode today. He's been a film executive turned tech founder, productivity expert, and remote work evangelist. So after producing blockbuster films like Die Hard and the Wolverine, Steven transitioned to startup world where he raised over $21 million. And I don't know if anyone ever has done venture capital or tried to raise money. It's not easy, and it can kind of suck sometimes. So I'll be curious to hear some of that. And he's launched startups and you know, has a lot of stuff going on. So Steven, welcome to The Friday Habit.
It is good to be here. I was listening to one of your episodes recently where you were talking about a pulled pork sandwich.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I live in Austin. And it inspired me to go get one. You guys just what was that? Q's? Where's the place called?
Oh yeah, GQ's. Yeah,
GQ's. Oh my God, you guys were just like, and then I was like,
the apple slaw on
salivating. Yes.
And fortunately, you live in a place where you can grab a good pulled pork sandwich right down the street. You got Terry Black's and Cooper's.
We got some great ones here. I know, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This will not be that episode, but I hope it'll be entertaining and insightful for anyone who's trying to do their own business, do their own side hustle, want some tips and tricks sort of things.
Well, yeah, I mean, and especially your experience in, just productivity and staying focused. I think you're going to really give us some great tips there. But I would really love to kind of hear your journey. I mean, it's not often you get to talk with somebody who, worked on Die Hard. And so my questions, I have you at my beck-in right now, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes or no?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, every guy over 30 asks that question, and I will tell you this, and this is going to be more involved than a yes or no answer, but it will also, I think, open up a lot of movies to you. And like once you've been under the hood and you've seen like how the engine works, you kind of can put your hand on the hood later and know what's up, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a V8.
Here's the deal. Exactly. So here's the deal. Exactly. Not an electric car. So when you're developing a film, right? Fundamentally, what you're doing is you're going, what is wrong with this hero, right? Guy or girl. Mm-hmm. What is deeply wrong with them? And then by the end of the second act, how do I put them in a position that is the worst possible thing if that's what's wrong with them, right? Mm-hmm. So you match the villain against it, the threat, the whole thing. So the beautiful thing about Die Hard, and I'm going to tell you, to this day, writers walk into your office at the studio when you're a buyer, and they will pitch you their film in shorthand going, it's kind of Die Hard on a plane with snakes and there's an alien.
It's like in the app world when everyone's like, oh yeah, it's like Uber, but for lawn mowing.
Exactly, Uber for cats. Okay, got it, right? So it is exactly that. It is that well done, like a Swiss clock, even though it is a pop culture action film. It is that well done. that 30 years later, guys will look you straight in the face and go, okay, so it's Die Hard with this twist, right? So that said, which is why I appreciate this movie so much, when you think about what the movie does in setting up conflict, it does it on every level, right? If you remember the very beginning of the movie, you see the very first shot of the movie is you see a man's hand, the left hand with a wedding ring on, clutching an airline seat, like armrest, right?
Yep.
If you were to stop the movie right there and say, what's this movie about? You go, well, there's a married guy who's flying. He sure doesn't seem happy about it.
Yep.
So there must be some reason why he's flying if he don't like flying, right?
Yeah.
By the time you get him in the limo, remember with Argyle, limo driver, who's like, hey, man, that's my first day driving. I don't know how this works, right? So by the time you get him there, he's been confronted with like hot girls. We have to kind of like turn away. He's like, no, I'm a married guy. I'm on a mission. He goes to baggage claim to claim his, the whole thing. And he gets the limo, right? And here's the thing. The writers do this, and it is amazing they get away with it because the writers use Argyle to sort of like needle Bruce, right? John McClane to go, hey, man, why are you here? And Bruce is kind of like, oh, screw off. I'm like, hey, come on, man. It's my first day. Why are you here? And finally, Bruce tells him like, well, I'm sort of this beat cop, run around the streets of New York, shooting, kicking, jumping, blah, blah, and my wife left me for this Japanese firm here in Los Angeles and family. And Argyle says to him straight up, the movie, in 2 sentences, Argyle looks at me and goes, okay, let me get this straight. So your wife left you and you came out here to basically like throw over your shoulder like a caveman and drag her back to New York. And Bruce sort of looks at me and goes, yeah, kind of like that. Like that, right? And the movie is the playing out of exactly that, right?
Interesting, yes.
Interesting as you think about the first thing that happens, he gets out of the limo. Remember, he rides in the front of the limo because they want to make a point. He's not the kind of guy who would be in the back. He puts the teddy bear in the back of the limo because he doesn't belong. That's where rich people go, right?
Right. Yeah.
He's a working class guy up there with Argyle. Gets to the destination, and he is what? He's a street cop. And he looks up at this tall building. He's like, oh, God, I got to go up the tower, right? He goes in. There's all sorts of cameras on him, and there's a computer screen. There's no like normal elevator lobby button. There's like computers. So all this to say he's out of his element, goes to the party. Guys are kissing him on the cheek. He's like, what the hell is this California thing? Right? He finds there's already a guy in the office trying to sleep with his wife. The rich Japanese guys he can't compete with, right? They're wealthy. And it's kind of wish fulfillment for him where he does look around and he goes, I lost her. But you know what? If she needed me to kick and jump and shoot, she would love me again. And that movie is wish fulfillment for Bruce, for John McClane, because when those terrorists show up, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world for him because he's like, I'm gonna win her back because none of these idiots can do what I can do right now, right? End of the movie, carries her out over his shoulder, out of the burning building. Exactly what Arnold told you in the beginning.
Yes,
now I'm gonna ask you this.
interesting.
If it is fundamentally a movie about a family being reunited, what time of year are families together?
Yeah, the holidays, Christmas.
Bingo. It's the only time he said it. There you go.
Yeah, all right, man. Yeah, and that's true, right? And then his wish comes true. He gets
and by
his
the way,
Christmas
Taken,
wish.
You ever see that movie Taken with Liam Neeson?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Exact same movie. It's the exact same movie. It is Die Hard where he loses daughter instead of wife.
Yeah.
He goes to the party. He brings a boombox. The new dad brings a pony. He's like, I can't compete. And then when he rescues that pop star who has like the stalker or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like holding on to the back of the limo. You see his face where he goes, if my daughter were in danger like this, she would be right here. And what happens? Daughter gets abducted. That movie is Die Hard beat for beat to the end where he shoots the bad guy and daughter's like, Daddy, I love you. And he's like, yeah, you do.
Dude, has that ruined movies for you? Because it's like you see the patterns and, great stories kind of follow the same arc. It's like that Luke Skywalker, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's like this like, oh, we have the guy who's training the guy to do the thing. And it's like, when you really start to break down stories, it's just interesting how like they all kind of follow that same format because I think as humans, we connect with that format.
What you're saying is totally true. It annoys the hell out of my wife when we watch a movie together. And I will, like in the fourth scene, say, oh, by the way, the reason the pencil's on the desk is in the third act. the pencil's going to be the thing that she stabs the guy with when he comes, and she's like, there hasn't even been that guy yet. I'm like, there will be a guy who comes and he's going to threaten her, and in the third act, the pencil is going to be the way she stabs him. Just trust. And my wife was like, I hate you on every level. I hate all of you. Right? And it's kind of a thing. But I'll tell you this: sometimes it's executed so well, you're just like, man, hat is off. Like, you have mastered the genre. This is beautifully told. And there's sometimes when it is just, you can hear the studio executive going, guys, come on. If we make number 19, I know it's going to make 250 million. Can you just come up with something? I don't care. I mean, the Star Wars universe at this point is making movies, they do spin-offs of the Kleenex that was on the Death Star. You know what I mean? It's like, how did that Kleenex box get on the Death Star? Let's make a movie about that. Let's do a spin-off series, And like, I don't even watch the Marvel movies anymore. It's like the exact same story over and over. And you can hear Kevin Feige just being like, what if it was Ant-Man versus Batman versus Predator? Could we get those rights? Could we do that? You gotta go. Okay. Tony, get on that. Right?
Well, and then I feel like too, there's an element of like, man, there's a lot of good actors who are aging out in some ways for some of these roles. Right? Like back in my day, I had Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis, and then kind of Jason Statham kind of later in the 90s and early 2000s,
Very true.
And then it's kind of like, well, who's the new Tom Cruise? Like, the last time Cruise movie's coming out here, right?
I think this weekend Tom Cruise is the Tom Cruise. His movie did really well, man.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like this is supposed to be the end, right, of his series since 96, I think it started, right? And so now it's like, I kind of want them, I haven't seen it yet, so, I don't know. But did you see the last James Bond movie, where they killed off, James Bond at the end? And you're like, yes, this is like... I
haven't seen the one since... I haven't seen one of them since the one with the elevator that goes underwater, which I want to say is probably 10 years ago. It just hit a point where, again, I was like watching the movie and you're sort of just hearing, like, friends work on them.
Yeah.
And, you have dinner and they're like, you won't believe what, the Broccolis want to do now is they made a deal to do this thing with Aston Martin. We've got to do an underwater chase with this. You know what I mean? And you just like watch the movie and you go, oh, yeah, that's what Joe was talking about when we had dinner. Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I don't see a lot of movies anymore.
No, it's hard, and even for me, I feel like I kind of grew up in the 90s, and late 80s. And so I feel like some of the best movies of all time, like, came out in the 80s and 90s,
Agreed.
and there's just this new movie that came out called Fountain of Youth, with Natalie Portman, and like it's like an Apple TV, and it's like they just stole the story of Indiana Jones and National Treasure, and it's just not as, it's like, this is like a B version of that, it's like, don't you have a better idea or like a new idea?
Okay, I gotta say this. So I did the Wolverine sequel called The Wolverine with Christopher Lloyd, who's a genuinely nice guy. But let us not kid ourselves. If you saw Top Gun Maverick, it is Star Wars 4. It is, I need to fly down this little canyon in this old plane and drop 2 bombs down because there's
I gotta just use the Force
underneath. Right, there's a little hatch. I have to drop the things in there. We got to do this, and he flies up, and Han Solo comes in. Except it's not Han Solo; it's Iceman.
Right.
It's like there's not a lot of news stories into the sun, but I think what you're saying, and I agree with you, is cinema when it came out of the 70s, like when there was that whole moment of like Spielberg going Jaws. And it's like this blockbuster. And it went from being like, oh, cute little Woody Allen films, whatever, to like, oh, it's this big thing. And Star Wars. I remember seeing Star Wars, right? It was just, wow, there's nothing like this, right?
Yeah.
And in the 80s and 90s, that kind of became mature. It was like, it's like 20s and 30s for an actor where you're just like, you look your best, you're the strongest, you can run and jump and do all the things. And then, kind of when you get into like your 60s and 70s, you're like, I'm not going to do those roles. And kind of done 14 times the guy with the spandex and things, right? So it was a heyday. And when you watch, like, I'm not making this up. My brother is really smart, like stupid smart.
Okay,
Dual
nice.
doctorate from Yale, Harvard undergraduate. He's a classical pianist, teaches music theory at college.
Smart guy.
Commando is his favorite movie.
That's awesome.
Should meet him. You can throw out any line from Commando, and he will do the next line in Arnold's voice to you. This is a guy who speaks classical Latin and Greek, right? And he will do it. I'm wanting you, Sally. This is my precom. Like,
oh man,
an entire scene he can do. Where it's like, it's all. You remember when I told you I'd kill you last? He's like, yeah, John, yeah, you did. He's like, I lied.
Yeah,
He just drops
totally.
it. Like,
There's so many good. I mean, well, Arnold was like one of the best of those like cheesy one-liners, but just made it work. You know, like
yeah, he really did.
You never felt like, oh, that was over the top. It's like, oh yeah, there's Arnold doing his thing, and that's what's fun about having kids. You know,
it is. He had to revisit those. Cameron wrote very well to his voice. Like Jim Cameron's one,
right?
Who could write that dialogue to go, I know exactly what you'll say, where it will be big and over the top, but it'll be like people will cheer, you know, the whole like hasta la vista kind of moment, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he was very good. That was an interesting partnership when you think about the partnerships in film.
Totally.
And I think the early, like you mentioned Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
And fan of Raiders 1 or no?
Yeah, oh yeah. I think Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and
okay, Temple of Doom was 2, which was kind of yeah. Last Crusade number 3 was pretty good.
Yeah,
right. The one where Sean Connery comes back, he's like, Indiana was the dog's name.
That's right. Yeah, Junior.
Exactly. Indiana was the dog. It's so fucking great. Sorry, I cursed. I'll tell you this: the same way in which Die Hard is a movie that in the industry gets quoted a lot because it executes the form so well. It's just a great shorthand. It's like you were joking about. It's Uber for cats. You know,
yeah.
Like, great. I'll tell you something about Raiders, which among good writers, like the writers get $1 million plus, you know, per script, right? Which I happen to have worked with Billy Ray, Alex Kurtzman, Bob Orsi,
nice.
you know, Damon Lindelof, Carlton Cuse, like a lot of Chris McQuarrie, a lot of these guys. It's interesting how that movie, which did spawn $1 billion set of 18 sequels and Universal theme park rides and all. But if you go back to the original, it is interesting how often it is quoted for character work. And I'll give you an example why. Okay? You haven't watched it recently, have you?
No, it's been like, I don't know, maybe like 5 years or something like that.
Okay. Should you revisit it? I'm going to give you a couple things to think about. And when you think about these, you will see how different it is from almost every other action adventure movie you will ever see in your life. And it does it
I'm
like
excited.
a magic trick. It is like a magic trick where it's like you're watching here and over here the stuff disappears and you don't notice, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
You made a joke earlier when you're like, hey man, when you work on a lot of movies, you sort of know like the setups and the payoffs of like, you know, in the first act, you have to show the hero doing the thing that he does in the third act. So like he's going to be this amazing archer that kills the dragon with the flaming arrow of death in the third act. In the first act, you have to show him at an archery range or somehow shooting an arrow, right? It's just one of the things you have to do, right? So it's interesting because you should watch the movie and ask yourself this question. Would the ending of the movie, would the movie's plot be any different if Indiana Jones had never been born?
Like the character is unique to like who he is?
He has absolutely no effect on the plot and no one ever picks up on it.
Yeah, that's
with all
interesting.
all the money that movie made, all the sequels it spawned, all the people who quoted it, the character writing is so good. You just love being with that character as he goes through all the shit.
Yeah.
And the climax of the movie, when he should have the sword of death and the machine gun with the laser on it, and he's defusing the LED bomb at the same time the aliens come, but he uploads the virus to kill the alien. He's tied to a stake.
Right, yeah, he's tied up, and it's just like,
he does nothing.
That's interesting.
The entire movie would end the same way if he had not been born. And you just love the character writing so much, no one notices. But inside Hollywood, like the great character writers for action adventure movies,
right,
aspire to that level of writing. I'll give you one more example. Why is that movie satisfying, even though in the end, he does not pull the James Bond.
The hero's not
LED
doing the hero thing.
Down.
Yeah.
He doesn't do any hero thing. Why is it so satisfying? And I'll tell you, because emotionally, the character pays off so well. And then we got to talk about productivity stuff and helping people and all that. But anyone who listens to your pod, I'm pretty certain remembers this movie and is going to be like, what is he going to say next? So I'm going to finish this thought and we'll move on. So here's the thing. Do you remember when he's teaching in the first act and his boss comes in? It's like, hey man, these government guys are here. They got some questions about the Ark, and they're coming to you, you know. And you've seen him steal stuff from tombs, and he's a tomb raider, archaeologist, sort of gray zone, like, you know, going into temples and stealing gold idols and shit, right? Exactly. So, you know, Dr. Jones would like to know this Ark. Hitler's after this ark, right? And he pulls out the dusty book. He goes, well, if you believe the stuff with the 10 Commandments and the tablets and the thing and the army that carries this, I don't know if you believe this sort of stuff, right? And they're like, well, do you believe it? He's like, isn't it a children's story? I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's skeptical, right? Who knows? Is this real? Don't know. He goes off. He's got to hook up with Marion, right? Marion has like the piece that he needs on this quest. He goes up there and she's like, you were my father's partner and you like broke my heart. You didn't give a shit about me, right? You like used me and left me and I've never been the same. Now I live in Nepal drinking shots with ugly Nepalese guys, right? Exactly. Well, you just never loved me, bah. The end of the movie, he is tied to a stake with Marion behind him, right? What does he do? He doesn't jump and shoot and kick and fire guns and all that. What does he do?
He grabs her hand or something, right?
Nope. He says 4 words. Marion, close your eyes. And with those 4 words, he says, yep, God's real. He's coming. This is going to be bad. I love you. I'm going to protect you. Close your eyes. Those 4 words pay it off, where he reveals himself as someone who believes in God and he cares about her.
Oh, see, I love that. Now I like the movie even more. And yeah, exactly. It's like, I think it's funny. I have my middle son. I've really made him a cinephile. Like I show him like good films and so it's
Commando.
cool because yeah, well, of course, yeah. But no, like he understands like good characters and all that stuff. And so it's funny because even he's only 14 now, but we've been watching movies together, since I felt like, he's old enough to watch this, Yeah. But anyways, it's interesting to see how he just picks up on it's like he feels that a lot of movies that are made nowadays are like force feeding the audience too much, where it's like they're giving you all the little things and they're not leaving anything to mystery and they're trying to over explain things to you about character. And so he's always like what happened to movies? Because I'm like, oh, how'd that movie? Went to it with a friend. He's like, it was okay. He was like, the character development was terrible and the pacing was off and the cinematography was
film critic. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Billy Wilder, the director Billy Wilder, actually had a great quote. He was interviewed by Cameron Crowe, and they made this book of like conversations with Wilder, right? And he basically said, here are some important concepts in film. Like I hope to share about productivity and having your side hustle and sort of stuff. One of those was, he said, let the audience add 2 + 2 for you. They will love you forever. Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what your son is saying. It's like, you could just tell me 2 + 2, and when I come up with 4, I will be more engaged in the movie. If you go 2 + 2, it's 4. Do you get it? It's 4. Did you get it?
Yeah.
4, right? And you're like, stop, I'm not dumb.
Right. That's what some of those things, like those Christopher Nolan movies, where it's like I watch it and I'm like, man, I don't even know what I just watched, but I like it. Like Tenet. I remember the first time I saw Tenet in theaters, like right after COVID. I was like, I don't even understand what just happened, but I think I liked it. And I was like, I need to watch this again.
Completely with you. Yeah. Again, one of the smartest guys working right now in cinema. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
totally.
Stuff.
So,
okay,
Steven,
so where do you want to go with this?
First of all, I'm curious about how did you even get into Hollywood, and even like were you a kid who was like, man, I want to make movies?
Nope.
Nope.
I'll tell you this. If you want to summarize my life so far, it is a series of lucky things that fell in my lap, and I happened to work really hard to make something of them. There was very little design. I was not 14 years old going, someday Mark's going to interview me on this podcast if I just get there, right?
Yeah.
No, and there weren't podcasts when I was 14. So let's be clear about that. So here's the short version of it. My parents were both IBMers. My mom was a coder, a systems programmer for the System 360. She was a software engineer. My dad designed logic chips, like CPUs for IBM, right? They met at IBM. Mutual friend was like, y'all should go out. Oh, they got married, right?
2 nerds found each other.
Completely. You're right. And it's like, you know what? Your mom is a great ice skater. You learn ice skate. So guess what? I was a little code monkey when I was little, right? It was like, this is fun. And you go to like little commute.
Your Radio Shack candy, you're up there on DOS, just going to town.
You know. So I used that and made money while I was in college because I was a Watson scholar, so I could work at IBM as a junior software engineer and make money, right? Great way to make money while I was in school.
Yeah.
So I happened to be going to USC. It's a great cinema school, right? a lot of my buddies in the dorm were aspiring Spielbergs and Lucas and, Scorsese's. So you go out Friday night, you watch a movie, you go to dinner, and everyone's like, talking about it. It was interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to be in Los Angeles when film went digital.
Mm.
And there were very few people when that happened. You could actually make a movie in the computer.
Right.
You could speak engineer, and they could also speak director speak.
Mm.
And I was in that intersection of that little Venn diagram, right? So my career took off. I got, hey, you know how to do this stuff. Come here. And started doing computer-generated effects for movies.
Okay.
Happened to be lucky. Produced the digital effects for Independence Day. We won the Academy Award for the visual effects on that, right? And that definitely helps your career.
Yeah, exactly. Put that in your resume.
It's just great thing on your resume. And Roland and Dean, the director and producer, we got along great. We set up a company at the end of Independence Day just to work together and do computer-generated effects. So, I raised $15 million for that company. Not an incredibly hard thing to do when you just won the Academy Award.
Yeah. You're like, hey, we just won this big award. Do you want to invest in us? Because we're going to do more of that.
Maybe
you can tie your name to
it. Indie film we did.
Right? We will not go quietly into the night.
Without a fight, right?
Yeah.
You get it, man. It's a Christmas Day speech. So that was good. So actually, I'll tell you a story about Roland D in a moment. So the end of the story is, so that was my segue into film, where it's like, suddenly I'm working with all these directors. I got to work with Cameron on True Lies. I worked with Woody Allen too, and Jim Jarmusch, Dead Man, and did Seven with Fincher and a bunch of stuff. I really worked with some great directors. Did Braveheart, blah blah blah, right? So in doing that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna wake up and be 30, 40 years old and still be making like the effects for someone else's movie, which was lucrative, but it was kind of like, where's this going, like life wise?
Yeah, but like, what fills your tank?
Completely. So I know your partner's off gallivanting around. When we sold Centropolis, this German conglomerate called Das Werk bought Centropolis, I took 2 years off and just traveled. I was like, okay, I'm in my late 20s. Like, this is cool. This is easy, because when you're in your 20s, you think everything's easy. You're like, I'm so smart. No, you're lucky, dude. Right? Yeah. So I then came back and I was like, I think what I want to do is I want to become like a studio chairman, or I want to like produce film. I try and get the whole movie made. So that was kind of how I spent like the next 10 years, which ended up, producing for Alex Kurtzman, Bob Orsi, who are the writers for Transformers and Star Trek and a bunch of stuff. They're great, right? Mission Impossible 3 was theirs, and Zorro. So that was with them an executive vice president on the DreamWorks slot. That was super cool. They're really smart guys. And actually there's a productivity lesson that kind of connects Roland and Dean and Alex and Bob. We're all like in that $1 Million Club about something that they knew about how to evoke certain mental states. So did that, and then ended up at Fox. Fox dangled the carrot of like, hey, you grew up watching Die Hard and you want to come and be the executive running the Die Hard franchise. Kind of hard to walk away from. They were like, we'll double your paycheck from DreamWorks too. And I was like, really?
You're like, sold.
Did that. Die Hard 5 was a terrible movie, and I realized I was just the guy there to get it made. There was no like stopping it or making it better. It was just kind of a franchise the studio made. And I was like, this is horrible. And just want to get out of that. So I thought, what's the thing I know how to do, which is engineering, right? So it was like, let's go do a startup. Start a small company, raised about $3 million, failed.
Okay.
Was humiliated.
What was that
company? It was basically, imagine like a collaborative Instagram, which when we got to about 60,000 monthly actives, Snapchat came out with stories and just did it better. Let's be honest. Like their UI was so much more lightweight and smart than how we did it. And so that was when I was like, man, I was humiliated. I bump into friends who are like, you left that VP job at Fox. How's it going doing your startup? And I'm like, terrible. I want to kill myself. Like,
yeah, brutal.
Yeah. So went to New York, ended up meeting my wife in yoga. In Manhattan,
little hot yoga.
Lower Manhattan. Sorry?
little hot yoga.
little hot yoga. She was working at Amex, and there was an Equinox in the bottom of the Amex Tower in the financial district. And I lived on that little block by the Hudson in Battery Park, and just would see her at lunch every now and then. We became friends, and then we started dating, and that was kind of it.
Look at that. Old school. Cool. No swiping necessary.
There was no swiping. It was just like the hot girl in Matt next to me. I was like, you're really good. She's like, how you doing? I'm like, how you doing? Who knows?
Yeah.
But
it worked out. Meet cute. That's what it is. The meet cute.
It is the meet cute, right?
Yeah.
And, we have a daily yoga practice. It's part of our life now. And so that was my segue back into tech. And the thing that struck me, because I did 2 companies that failed, 2 small companies raised about 3 million for each. And the thing that really stood out for me was the whole world went through the pandemic, and, like Zoom became a verb, and everyone was like, oh God, what if we're at home? How do we stay in sync? And I'm so distracted. And am I spending the day doing the laundry while I should be working? Stuff like that, right?
Right.
And there were a lot of things that I had picked up in the film days. And I was like, this is super applicable. If I could bring these and sort of say, like, man, here are like 5 tricks, like the kind of work, whether you are a leader of a team trying to give them the space to do great things, or whether you're the one who wants to do great things for yourself, whether you're trying to move your own life forward or your own side hustle. And that is a lot of what I've been doing recently. I built an entire platform around these ideas, and I had read a bunch of books. Once I got into this, smart people have written about this. This is not the first wheel that has needed to turn around. So you read Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, you read, Cal Newport's Deep Work, you read Clear and Near AL, and you sort of go, oh, there's a lot of commonality here. Like they have their own lexicon and their own framework, their own acronyms, you know what I mean, to sell you their book for $24.95. But there's a lot of similarity. And I just basically said, how can you boil this down, put it together in one platform, and just make it super accessible for the set of people who actually want to do something with their life?
Yeah.
If you're coasting and you're like, hey man, like I am where I am, I'm not going anywhere, then I've got nothing for you. But for the ones who are like, I have this many units of brain energy a day and this many units of time I can spend to get to the next place, that's exactly whom I help.
Nice. That's so awesome. And again, I think in this day and age, we're so distracted. I mean, that's
not
one
a
thing.
Beer. Just water. Just water.
That's right. Canned water, everybody. Yeah, you can have a beer. That's fine. You can have a beer.
Friday habit, right?
That's right. That's not the Friday habit we're trying to promote, right? No, but I do want to talk to you a little bit about productivity, I guess, and being self-directed and self-guided, because I think that's one of the things. I think one of the things I was looking at when kind of preparing for this was this dopamine management. This and one of the thoughts that came to me when I heard that, it was this idea of like, oh man, if you think about it, like we're surrounded by all these things that trigger dopamine, right? These notification alerts, whether it's shorts or reels or TikTok or, whatever it might be. So maybe we can talk, I don't know where you want to take that or like where we should start. Yeah. It's like, where do we start?
It's a great place to start.
Yeah.
So let us say this. The same way in which if you want to be Usain Bolt or you want to be Michael Jordan, whatever, like you pay attention to the way your body works and you do the things that create the body that's going to set world records or, make you the greatest of all time, right? So if you are ambitious, and I am only speaking to the people who want to do something with their lives, if you're like coasting, you can ignore, like tune out, go on to the next thing, okay? Right? Tap out of this one.
Check out.
So if you do look at your mind the way a great athlete, is tuning their body, you realize what you were talking about. And enough people have written about dopamine and how we get addicted to it now. Matter of fact, there's a great Huberman episode where he talks about we're the generation where you can now get dopamine, that happy neurotransmitter sort of like lift with zero effort. You used to have to like write a poem, write a book, paint something, do something, give a speech. Now you can just sit on the sofa and just scroll and you just get dopamine hits and you don't even have to move. You're just getting, fat and ugly sitting there.
You can just Grubhub your greasy, salty meal right to you and keep scrolling.
And Mark wants you to stay in one of his meta apps to order the food. He's like, don't stop scrolling. We'll give you a button right there. Order food while scrolling. Yes, please. Yes, please. So it is interesting when you think about that world, and you have in our world, this is kind of a sad thing, the highest reward that you can earn if you are a great designer, behavioral psychologist, if you're an engineer, is working for a company that their business model is probably stealing someone's life. Like that great quote in the Social documentary about if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. So that the smartest minds of our time in this area, like how do we control attention, they know if they go to work for TikTok or Snap or Meta, they're going to make so much money. Their kids don't need to work, right? And all they're trying to do is apply everything they have learned through research and school to say, how can I get one more second of someone's time across 1 billion people? Mark will give me so many stock options, it's not even funny, right? And that is what they're laser focused on. How can I get one more second of your life to sell it to an advertiser and keep the money. So when you're up against the best minds making the most dopamine fueling colors and buttons and sounds and, oh my God, it's hard. So I'll give you an example. When we thought about this in designing the Sukha, which is, my platform, is we said, okay, you know what? They've shown us a lot of the great tricks that work. The gamification, Duolingo, for example. Like if you want to do something cool, I want to go learn Spanish before I go spend the summer in Spain, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
It's actually kind of a cool use. They do a really good job of saying like, hey man, we studied that whole dopamine thing too. We got you, right? We're going to give you little badges, little rewards, things like that, right? And there are some things that are important for you to be able to, would not even be able to want to repeat this process, to come back and like keep training, If you, like for example, when you're working on our platform, if you do something minute by minute, you can see, we have a live graph of your productivity, sort of like Apple Watch or Oura Ring or something like that, where you can see like, how am I doing right now? Oh, that's right. 5 minutes ago, my score went down. That's when I opened YouTube and then I watched the other video. But then the last, few minutes, I'm doing great. My score goes up. So you can like scroll across your graph and literally know, what did I do, and start to learn about yourself the same way. You might look at your Oura download and be like, wow, I don't really sleep well when I go to sleep at like 11:30, but I'm way better when I go to 10:30 and my sleep cycles are, you just like, I sleep better. I'm happier in the morning. My wife is happy, like stuff like that. Right.
Right.
So there's that. And this ties into this concept of flow states, which I haven't heard you speak about this on the pod before. Maybe I missed. There are a lot of episodes.
But it is one of those things. I think as a musician too, there was a time like it's like a certain time in the middle of the night where it's like I would wake up and have like a song would come to me, and then it's like I could focus and like write a whole song like in 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just lay out for listeners what is a flow state in case anyone doesn't know, and then we'll talk about how to get into it. Right. So the first time I experienced a flow state, I was on a flight from Austin here to SF. And I remember we took off and we landed, and I thought, oh my God, something's wrong with the plane. Like we must have landed in Dallas. Like they found an engine fell off and we just, had to land. And I actually looked at the time, and 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by. We were landing in SFO. I can tell you if the drink cart came by. I didn't go to the bathroom. I had some designs I was doing in Figma on my laptop, and they were done. And I thought in my mind, when I get there, I'll go to the hotel before I meet with the team and I'll finish the stuff. And I was done. And there's a great like a New England lobster place right by SFO. And I was like, I got time. I have time to go to lobster. I love that place, right? Like you love GQs, right? So I was like, what happened? Where I had no concept of what had happened. And there is a fantastic book because Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the Hungarian psychologist, study this. He goes, high performers seem to have this highly concentrated state where they kind of like work magic. Like the world falls away, they go into this thing and they come out going like, oh, by the way, I invented cold fusion. How was your Tuesday? And they all use many of them use different terms. As you noted, it's like Michael Jordan has that great quote about being in the zone. When I'm in the zone, it's me and the ball, right? There are no defenders. There's no scoreboard. There's no stands. It's just, he's in that state, right? And I think there's one I always mangle, which is this Picasso quote about, I was up all night. I forgot to pee and I didn't eat. But hey, Guernica, what do you think? Pretty cool, right? Do you like it? And that sort of state that you get into, he was like, I want to study that. I want to know how that works. And then I want to reverse engineer and figure out what are the inputs, what are the conditions precedent that help these people get into it? How do they train their minds to do that? And you touched on this a moment ago, right? So one of the things that turns out to be very helpful in getting into a flow state, if you want to do like 6 hours of work in 4 or something, right, is that you do get feedback. You know how you're doing. Like I was talking about the productivity graph there with live graph. You can see how I'm doing. Like if you're working on a task, there are some things that Mihai wrote are like seem pretty common to all these high performers is they have to believe it's meaningful. Like it's not something where I am brushing my teeth in a flow state. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be doing somewhere you go, there's a reason to do this. Even if it's a TPS report, you're like, there's a reason I'm doing this, right? It has to be something where you have skills that apply. So it's not Michael Jordan painting. It's not Picasso throwing a basketball, right? It is you're doing something, you know you're good at it. It has to be, number 3, challenging. It can't be something you're like, it's like, if you want to do this well, it keeps you like on your toes kind of, right? So that's how you stay in the state. A lot of people have written about how certain kinds of music seem to enable this, allow you to slip into it easier, usually 60 to 90 beats per minute. certain key signatures, non-vocal, ambient, kind of like rhythmic music. We all have the friend who has to listen to death metal or 90s gangster rap, whatever. Like we get that, right? But for most people, there's that. Like in our app, I happen to have a lot of friends who are film composers that have a lot of time on their hands. We took a lot of research and said, could you write music? So it's like 1,000 hours of music that fits this kind of flow state kind of thing, right? So that's one of the things we offer. And so you look at those inputs and you say, how do I train my brain so that when I want to do that thing, it's like, hey man, I could be done at X or I could be done at Y. What can I do to be done at Y, right? Yeah. Those are some of the things. And do you remember at the beginning when we actually stopped talking about movies, we segued into like my life, I was talking about, I set up that company with Roland and Dean, who'd done Stargate and Independence Day and later worked with Alex Mob. I'm going to tell you something that I noticed working with them. When they would go off and write their earlier films, Roland and Dean, there was this villa, I've never been there, apparently this beautiful white marble villa down in the hills of Puerto Vallarta where they would write. And they talked about, there's just like this beautiful sort of living room off the sort of bed dining area where the light comes over, the pool in the morning, and they're just like, it's our space, and we do this thing, right? So I've got to tell you, when they were going down to write, Roland told his assistant, he's like, Joey, rent the place. We're going down to write, right? Joey came back that afternoon and was like, it's rented. Someone else, it's like an Airbnb or whatever. It's like, it's already rented. And around the office, it was kind of like,
oh no.
Right. Roland called his entertainment attorney, John Deemer, who's an amazing attorney, by the way. It was like, John, buy the house. By Monday, Roland owned a villa in Puerto Vallarta. Where the current renters went, nobody knows. But I'm going to tell you, they were paid enough to not be there on Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
And the guys came back from their little writing thing with the script that became the third highest grossing movie in history at the time. Right? That was, they knew that there was that space. I'm going to tell you a very different story, which is the same story, which is when I was working with Alex and Bob years later, and they had to go into their writing mode. It was not a luxury, beautiful white marble villa down in Puerto Vallarta. We were on the DreamWorks lot, which is a subsection of the Universal lot, right? By Universal Studios Hollywood sort of thing, right? They would have their assistant rent a room at the Universal Hilton, which I'm just going to tell you is not a luxury property, right? It's the hotel across the street. And I realized working with them, for them, that thing of like Alex sitting on the edge of the bed with his laptop and Bob sitting at the little desk with his laptop, it probably evoked that feeling when they met when they were college students. And it was like, we're in a dorm and this is like us writing. We're going to be writers someday, I think it brought them back to that creative place. And they did the same thing that Roland and Dean did. They knew, okay, we got to buckle down. We have to get out. They're being paid $1.5, $2 million a script, right? We need to go earn our $2 million in the next 3 weeks. They just block booked that. They would leave their house in the morning, go sit there, write, come back. And that association of place, I'll tell you, is a really hard one when you work from home, because you can, one of the advantages of working from home is you have the whole house, right? I'll go work at the kitchen table in the morning. I'll go work on the sofa in the afternoon. I don't know if you've ever done that. I did it.
Oh yeah.
And it breaks your mind from thinking, oh, this is where I do this kind of work. And once I said, you know what, I'm going to take one of the bedrooms upstairs, told Laura, I'm just going to turn this to my little office. And this, I got to tell you, I recognize the thing when I walk and I sit down here, I'm way more efficient because there isn't that thing of like, well, I'm sort of near the fridge and I'm sort of near the thing. No, it's just you train your mind to be in that place.
Okay, so anyway, so creating a space. So creating a space, that's like a key in order to like remain productive. And then
know what kind of music gets you there.
Okay,
or silence. Some people silence. That's another big one. Also, organize your tasks with an awareness of how you work. And again, this is one of those things. If you measure something, you can improve it, right? So when I talk to you about, we built this whole like productivity scoring systems, you can see sort of like Duolingo, sort of like Oura Rings or Apple Watch. The beautiful part of it is I started to realize I'm actually a morning person. I always thought I was a late night person. Maybe from being a coder, because there's such that culture of like, I was up until 3 a.m. coding, like that hustle culture at night. But when I actually looked at when I did the most work the fastest, it was in the morning. And that's one of the things, again, as you learn about yourself, this is called chronotype, right?
Yeah.
Time type. You start to understand this kind of work, when I need to actually sit and like write the email campaign that's going to be the thing, man, like 7 to 9 in the morning, I could do it in 30 minutes. I try and do it after dinner where I'm just going, I'm knock it out. It takes me 2 hours. It's just really interesting. But if I need to do something silly like, I have a bunch of, bills for the company I need to get paid, perfect thing to do after dinner. I can knock those out. It's sort of mindless and just go to bed. So learning that how your day parts associate with your brain, that's another one. Not everything is perfect at every time of day.
Right.
This makes sense, but it's too much.
No, this is great. And I think that kind of leads into, and maybe we can explain to our audience, because you do something like time boxing, right? Where it's kind of like you put certain tasks into, certain parts of your day. And that sounds kind of like what you're saying. It's like, okay, if you're a morning person or you kind of can reach that flow state, get to your place and then block your time to do these types of tasks during that time.
Yes. You know what? Here's another fun story for you. There's a screenwriter, Ron Bass, who's written movies that Julia's been in, read for like a bunch of, right? And he realized this. He was an attorney who started as a side hustle writing scripts. He's like, I think I could do this, right? And what he realized was in the mornings, he could not talk to his family. I think at the time he had 2 kids when this was the story he told. And he said in the morning, I get up and I told him, I can't do the, hey, what do you want for cereal? Or have a good look at school. It's not that I don't care about you. It is that as soon as I talk to you, I can't hear my characters' voices in my head and I can't write dialogue. So that morning, like 6 to 9 a.m., or I think he even got up, he was 5. He got up early in the morning, but that block, he didn't talk to his own wife. But in that time, he wrote the dialogue that you get someone like Julia Roberts at the height of her career going, yeah, I'll be in this. Yeah, I'll play his character. You know what I mean? And that is hard to satisfy stars like that. But he could write that. And he learned that, again, know thyself. He was like, I can't talk to you because then I can't hear Julia's voice or Robert's voice or whomever, right?
Right.
Which is really cool. So you brought up time boxing. Let me expound on that for a moment. And hopefully these are interesting lessons. And I'm actually going to talk from pain, from my problems, right?
I love it.
Just like we were talking about a character in a movie, right? To write that character, you have to know what's wrong with him or her. Because that's what the movie's going to be about, right? Okay. A good movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So, snakes on a plane. Die Hard in a snake.
Sharknado.
Exactly. Die Hard in a Sharknado plane. Right? Snakes. God, your listeners are like, either this is an amazing episode or like, wow, these two.
They're loving it. They're loving it.
They need help, right? Okay. So here's something I'll be very vulnerable and clear about is there were 2 really big problems that I was facing that is part of why I created this way. One problem I now call the cold start problem, which for me was tomorrow morning, I'm going to get started at 9, right? I got some stuff to do. And invariably at 9, I wouldn't get started. At 9:15, I'd still be checking emails or something. I should knock these out, or I'd pick up my phone really quick just to check the news and scroll to, and like 9:30 to get started. And it was this thing in the morning, right? Where I was like, why do I do this? And when I realized, and now I've spoken to hundreds of members of my community, this is not unique, is that procrastination in the morning, which is what it is, was really from 2 kinds of overwhelm that I felt. Either looking at my task list and going, there are 17 things on here. I'm not going to get 17 things done. This is crazy. I don't even know where to start. It's like this paralysis around, oh man. Or something on there is just so big where it's like, Mark, you need to write your book. And you're like, yeah, I did write this thing. I wrote a task about it. I need to write the book. I'm not going to write the book the next 2 hours before my first Zoom and my stand-up meeting. You know what I mean? And you're like, why even start? It's just too big. And so this is how I solved it for me. And it's going to sound kind of simplistic, but it works. So, I go with it, which is we built a little smart assistant that when I start in the morning, when anyone starts on our platform, looks at your task list with you and says like, hey man, what are the 3 things we really need to get done? Like it seems like this thing, that thing, and what's the third thing? And you're like, oh, this thing. Okay, great. I'm going to take those 3. I'm going to put them right here so you can see them on screen while you work. I'm going to hide the rest. You don't need to see 14 other things, right? We're going to work on these 3. And then when I'm working, I look up and I'm like, oh, I can totally knock those out. And I'll tell you this. When we built that, where you can only see 3, with our members, and in our platform, people have done about 550,000 tasks now.
Wow.
I can tell you, you have a 77% better chance of finishing all 3 than when you could see all 17. because there's something about that paralysis of like, so people would finish too, same kind of task, same time, but they wouldn't finish as much because it just seems overwhelming. So seeing that really helped. And the other thing is, if the smart assistant sees you doing the, thing where they're like, Mark, you're not going to write your book today before 11 a.m., but what about outlining chapter 3? Because I see you finished chapter 1 and 2 outline. Could I make a third task for you today? It's just outline chapter 3, and it takes you about 35 minutes on average, it seems like. I'll put that in there. And then you're like, oh yeah, man, I could bang out chapter 3. That's like not intimidating, like write my book or do my ad campaign, redesign my website. It's just like, hey, just find some good quotes for the website today. Oh yeah, that'll take about 30 minutes. I can do that. It's like simple things. They're just at 9 a.m. Now I'm looking forward to getting started because it kind of feels like dominoes start to fall in the morning. As opposed to it's just trudging through the mud. I'm like, I hate my life.
What do you think about Brian? Sense? Yeah, what do you think about Brian Tracy's concept of eat that frog? Is like doing the most difficult, complicated thing.
Goes back to Mark Twain. Actually, if you want to give the attribution there.
Okay,
right?
Mark Twain.
And I will tell you this: there's some productivity principles that I'm like double down on. Absolutely, that's amazing. Eat the frog is one where I've seen both sides. And there are people who absolutely work best by saying like, oh, my entire day has changed because I ate the frog first thing. I did my hardest task first thing, right? That's what that means, that metaphor. And there are other people where they actually, when they have the momentum of like, man, I got 3 things done this hour, that momentum is the powerful thing that carries them through. I thought I was the former. I'm actually the latter. I'm actually the one who's like, if I look up and at 10 a.m. I've gotten a couple things done, it changes my day more than I spend an hour and a half on the one big hard thing. And then I'm still staring at the 16 other things on my to-do list. It's just know yourself, see how you work best, see what kind of music.
And too, I think when you can check things off, it gives you that little dopamine hit, of like, ooh, I got that task done.
Hell yes. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
So however much you can use those levers to get yourself to do the thing that's good, it's like, do it.
All right, so we're working from home. We, we're doing all this. So you've given us some really good like tools, like create a space, like an environment, maybe even like smells and sounds and all these other kind of things, right? We have your productivity tool. Where can people go to find that?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked. The thing that I'm so proud of is called the Sukha Company. Actually, do you want to know why it's called that? I'll tell you a funny story.
Okay, yeah.
Why it's called that? Because it's a really weird name.
Yeah, it is.
I met Laura in Manhattan in yoga, right? We have a daily yoga practice.
There's that pencil.
I know, exactly. That's set up. So here's the funny thing. So for our honeymoon, like 2 or 3 years ago, we went to Bali, which is a great place to go do yoga, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Very grateful at this point in my life. I can go and, hang out and play around in Bali for the honeymoon. So during that time, I knew no one was going to ask me to like approve purchase orders for pencils or red staplers or anything.
Yeah.
Right? So I was talking to Laura on the flight. I was like, I got to find a name for this thing we've been running that's kind of working under a temp name. Maybe my intention like this week is like to let my unconscious mind bubble up with that weird, like Amazon for books, Nike for shoes. Like what's that thing that's not like, the running shoe company, right? But it's like Nike. You're like, ooh, cool, that's kind of cool, right? So she's like, okay, good luck with that. I said, do you mind if, like, when we get there, I ask a couple of people who are like been using it a bunch, what is it they love about it? Because maybe that'll seed my unconscious mind with like some cool things, right? She's like, go for it. I'll be at the pool. Okay. So I put it in the little chat channel we have inside Sukha. I said, who has 10 minutes? So I did a couple of those, like, hey, Mark, thanks for talking. What's your favorite feature? Do you love the music, the Pomodoro timer, the time boxing, the smart assistant, what is that? So do that. The third one, it's just about done. Like 8 minutes in, I was going into the wrap up, where you're like, Mark, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's going to help me so much. And the guy stopped me and goes, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. I was like, okay. What was the right question? He's like, you should have asked me why I pay you. I was like, okay. I mean, it's like 30 cents a day. I didn't think that was that big a deal, but yeah, okay. Why do you pay me? And he said this. He said, at 3:00, I could be playing with my kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Or at 6:00, I can be down on myself, be like, where did the day go? How the hell did I not get stuff done? I'll get up early tomorrow to finish this stuff. He's like, I figured the difference out. It was whether I opened your app in the morning.
Interesting.
So my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever, and that's why I pay you. I was like, whoa, okay. So I go to dinner with Laura. I was like, I spoke to this dude who was more articulate about what I do than I am. And I told her what he said, right? And she was like, that's really good. That's better than anything you've ever said about your own company. And I was like, okay, cool. So we're going to bed. And Laura looks at me. She goes, you know, in yoga, we hear all those like satya and karma and dharma, all those like Sanskrit like words and concepts. She's like, you asked the universe to speak to you. It did through that dude. She's like, he described Sukha, that feeling of like happiness you feel when you're self-fulfilled, when you're good at something, you do it with ease.
Interesting.
She's like,
oh, that's clever.
what she said to you. And it's like, there you go. All these tools you're thinking you're building, they're the path to walk on. They're not the goal. The goal is Sukha. And that night from bed in Bali in our little hotel room, I went on my phone and I was like, I wonder if the Sukha company domain is available. And it was, and I bought it from bed. And that's how we call it, the Sukha company. So that's where people can find me at TheSukha.co for company, the Sukha company.
Right. Nice.
That's free for 7 days and, you know, no credit card.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've kind of talked about us, and I know we need to wrap up here, but one thought I had is, you know, I have a team, and we have a remote hybrid schedule, so I let people work from home, you know, a few days a week. And so I guess as a leader, you know, and all of our listeners who out there who do lead teams, and maybe some of them are remote, what's the best way to manage?
Let me give you one. Yes, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Let me give you one really actionable thing that I've seen great leaders do in this regard. And this is true if you're leading a company where people do knowledge work. So you have writers, engineers, designers, you know, people like that on staff. This is not if you manage lifeguards. This is not for that. Okay. It is when you look at the body of research about when you are in a flow state, when you're in a highly concentrated state, when you're in the zone, whatever you want to call it, and you get interrupted, it's between 17 and 25 minutes before you're actually back in that state. Think about that. 17 to 25 minutes before you can recover from, hey, Mark, do you have that TPS report I could have? Oh, yeah, let me find it for you. And you're trying to, where was I I was writing the thing about, you know, the best leaders I've seen, they make room for that time. They go, you know what? Let's have a deal on this team, like from 9 to 11. None of us bug each other. In those 2 hours, we do the work that actually moves the team forward.
That's good.
That's powerful. Because if you have that agreement, that's when you get people to do the thing when they come into the staff meeting and they're like, hey man, this morning I kind of built this feature. What do you guys think? And you're like, that changes the course of the company. Like, this is amazing. This is not just, I stapled all the reports really well. Let me pass them out. Do you like, you know what I mean? It's that time for someone to go deep. And that's where you get the groundbreaking stuff. But you have to be dedicated to, we're not going to bug each other for these 2 hours. You know,
and so
no
really
meetings.
just creating that space. Yeah. And then like being okay with that silence.
Yeah. And if you are nervous about that as a leader, you should look at your hiring practices. Exactly. You should look at your hiring process. Because if you have hired people, you just don't know what they're doing for 2 hours, you can't trust them, then that's a question of like, why did you hire that person? But if you've hired someone where they want to do their best, they want to become known as the guy at the conference for designers that speaks about how he invented the UI of whatever it was that became the $1 billion company, like, give that guy room to be the guy who's on stage going, this is how I made my company $1 billion.
Right.
Yeah. Or girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Non-gender specific carbon-based life form.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, man, this has been a very fun conversation.
Fun,
yeah. And
whoever's still listening, thank you. I love all of you and your children.
That's right. Yeah. So if people wanted to connect with you online, are you on LinkedIn?
Super easy.
You know, and
I'll make it even easier than that.
Okay.
If there is anything that I've said where you're listening and you have a question like, oh man, I'd love to read a blog by Cal Newport, or what was that book he mentioned from the Hungarian guy, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
My email is very public. Email me, just go, hey, could you send me that thing, right? Steven with a V at Sukha. Again, that's TheSukha.co. I get back to all my emails in 24 hours if I'm not sick or traveling. You may not get a long email with 19 paragraphs of the history of, you know, my summer camp. You're not going to get that. But if you're like, dude, I would love to know more about deep work, I will find something for you. I'll send it to you.
Awesome. That's great. I appreciate that. What a cool thing to do. This is the one thing our audience can do Monday morning in order to start bettering themselves, developing, their businesses and making positive progress. What's the one
Decide
thing
if
you
you're
would tell?
serious. Decide if you're
Okay.
serious.
Are you all
That's
in or
it.
not?
Like all the things we talked about, blocking focus time, finding the right music, finding the right day part, finding the right place to go, all that stuff is secondary. When you make the decision to go, yeah, you know what, I'm ready to be a billionaire. I'm ready to be the best in my, field in this. I'm ready to be the best artist, whatever. It all starts with that decision to go, I'm going to become the fastest runner on earth. And until you do that, none of the other stuff matters.
Love it. So good.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, Steven, thanks so much for being here today. And thank you guys for listening to The Friday Habit. You can find show notes for this episode at thefridayhabit.com. You can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit system that'll show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated working on your business instead of always in your business. You can hit us up at hello@thefridayhabit.com if you have any questions or guest suggestions. And until next time, remember, live every day like it's Friday.